Where is the time going? Anyway, here's what I've played for the last 3 months in ranked order. Just like part 1 though, every game here is what I consider to be a good game, so even those at the bottom, I would recommend. And kicking us off is Rhapsody, a musical adventure which I played on the DS. Well, I emulated it, should I say. Now it's worth noting that there are 2 versions of this game, and in about a month it will also be coming out on Steam as well with further optimization. There was the original PSX version which had enemy recruitment, English voiceover and a few extra collectathon mechanics along with strategic based gameplay on a grid, while the DS version added a few side quests, made a certain main character playable, added quality of life features like a minimap, and changed the combat to a straight up turn-based affair. I'm not sure which one would be better, but I was just fine with the DS version I played, and maybe the PC version when that releases will be the definitive edition, so to speak, moving over the best of both of the previous versions to the platform. Don't quote me on that though, I haven't read into it. As for the game, Rhapsody is what I imagine one of those classic 90s Disney movies would be if a Japanese boardroom got a hold of the rights. It's very light-hearted with the most basic premise that has been around since the dawn of literature, but in between you're treated to some musical numbers that convey the feelings of the characters or act as a method to push the story along. It's actually quite intriguing, and I got a kick out of the villain's song in particular. As a result, it's charming and super short to boot, but it's at the bottom of this list because it has flaws, glaring ones if I'm honest. First of all, it's stupidly easy. In some of the later fights I was literally just scrolling for news on my phone as I spammed the A button. There's only one fight that was a notable difficulty spike, and that was near the end of the game anyway. Secondly, it's got that old school archetype of where the hell do you go? The direction given to the player is minimal at many points and requires you to backtrack on a few occasions for no discernible reason. And finally, and for me this issue is compounded because of the 2 other flaws, the random encounter rate is atrociously high. You'll go 2, maybe 3 screens along if you're lucky before bumping into an enemy, and as far as I could see there was no way to alleviate the problem. It's reminded me of the final dungeon in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, which as far as I'm concerned can burn in Lucifer's smokehouse. Except in Rhapsody, it's pretty much the whole game. So yeah, it has issues, that's for sure, but I did have a good time with it owing to that charming approach, and even with its problems, it didn't take me too long to beat either. Next up is Etrian Odyssey Untold, the Millennium Girl, which in of itself is a reimagined remake of the first title from the series. Now I am somewhat cheating here as I never finished this game. I got 35 hours in and then my computer died. It needed a complete wipe and I lost everything relating to save states on my emulated titles. Etrian Odyssey unfortunately was one such casualty, and to be honest, even though I did like it, I don't really want to push through those 35 hours again to get back to where I was when there were so many other games I'm looking to play. So with that in mind, I'm probably missing out on the story beats and character development, but I can at least give my opinion on everything else. The Millennium Girl is a dungeon crawler, and it comes with all the wanderlust that is familiar with the genre. You take a first-person view and scan out the dungeons as you go ever deeper, completing quests, gathering materials, and of course advancing the story. However, this game has a really cool gimmick in that you map out the dungeons as you go with the second screen using the stylus. This was a game designed for the 3DS, and developers decided to incorporate that to its fullest. There's a real sense of progression as a result as you map out each floor, and you can also put down markers for special resources, notable enemies, or shortcuts to get around. The combat is also pretty damn good, with a banging soundtrack to boot. It's turn-based once again, but you have a front row and back row, complete with characters that fulfill certain roles. Each one has their own unique progression tree, and you can also spice up said progression with the grimoires that you find during the adventure. On top of that, fights are dynamic, as enemies can join the fray depending on where they were on the map when you first entered combat. It keeps you on your toes and ensures that those who plan ahead can gain advantages. What Etrian Odyssey has going for it is its undoubtedly addicting gameplay loop. It's simple in that you're going into dungeons, coming back with items and making stronger equipment so you can go ever deeper, but it's done very well. Easy to grasp, but oh so satisfying to partake in. I would like to come back to this game when my backlog is whittled down some more, but from what I played until that unfortunate crash, very good. At number 6 is the prequel expansion to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in Torna the Golden Country, and with it completed, that ensures that I'm now prepared for the upcoming release of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But Torna was a really solid experience. Despite being a shorter journey, it added a fair amount to the mythos already surrounding Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It was great to go back in time and witness the events mentioned in the main game from a first-hand perspective. The likes of Laura and Jin as the lead protagonists this time around worked well to give a tone separate from that of the main game. But Torna also managed to address the issues that plagued the first experience as reported by players, like speeding up the combat, addressing the UI problems, and allowing the switching of characters on the fly. And even though I personally preferred the combat from XC2, I think Monolith Soft did a good job here considering the aforementioned length of this game compared to its predecessor. It had to be sped up in light of that. The only real point of contention for me and Torna comes down to the community mode that was added. It actively gates off main story progress at 2 intervals, effectively forcing you to do side content, which kind of defeats the point of the term side content if you actually need to do it. This was probably there to make sure that you were fully equipped for the final battle, but it did take away from the pacing of what was a great story up till those walled off points. Either way, I really enjoyed Torna, and it's once again a shorter experience that can easily be completed in a couple of weekends. Breaking into the top 5 is the new Sakura Wars title from 2019, or 2020 for the West. It is, without doubt, one of the dumbest games I've ever played, like watching one of those Japanese comedy skits with the folded paper fans popping up at every scene transition. It's crazy, it's slapstick, but you know what? I frickin' love this game, and I don't care what anyone says about it. Sakura Wars is a dating sim hybrid, but the dating aspect takes center stage as there are a variety of heroines for the main character to court. You partake in events, and through the lips system choose what you think are the best choices to raise your chances at getting the girl. And some of the responses are so ridiculous that I made a point at times of making multiple saves so I could go back and see how they played out. And that aspect was made all the sweeter considering how well animated this game actually is. Tite Kubo was involved for the main characters, and his art style is perfect for this type of game. It allowed the developers to go to town with the animations to really bring this title to life. I get a kick out of even the tiniest details in this game. It literally feels like you're playing through an anime, which is a-okay in my book. It's refreshing and a joy to witness at every moment. The only real weaknesses for Sakura Wars comes firstly in its combat. It's action-centric and is very simple. The level design is also uninspired, being nothing more than hallways with very little in the way of added reward for exploration, and Koi Koi is a cool addition but a pain in the ass to figure out if you're not Japanese. But like I said before, the dating sim aspect is the core of this game, and it delivers on that aspect without a shadow of a doubt. Sakura Wars is akin to having some Swede on a dinner plate that you push to the side because that part sucks, but is more than made up for with a beautifully done medium rare steak to sate your appetite. And damn is that steak good. At number 4 is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Now, if I had played this game blind, I dare say this would have been in the top 2, but it wasn't. I played the original way back when, and this was effectively my second time experiencing this story outside of the inclusion of Future Connected, which is a nice addition to round out the story. However, in terms of plot, I knew what was coming, and a large part of my enjoyment for a JRPG comes down to how the narrative plays out, along with the twists and the revelations that come with it. Xenoblade Chronicles DE undoubtedly has some of the most impactful story beats in any JRPG. Heavy-hitting, mature themes that are delivered on in equal measure with a wonderful cast of characters to prop it up. The music is astounding, with that final theme by Mitsuda as a personal favourite of mine. I like the combat, again, it's a refreshing change to the archetypes I've grown more used to, and finally the scale of the world. Unrivaled in many ways, that fits the vision that Takahashi and Monolith Soft had for the game when it was first conceptualized. The fact that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is this high up on the list, even though the part that I derived the most enjoyment from was already known to me, speaks volumes for what I think about the game. Undoubtedly one of the must-plays of the modern JRPG era. At number 3 is one of the most pleasant surprises I've had in any game, so much so that I had to make a dedicated video on it after I had completed the adventure. Opus, Echo of Starsong is not a JRPG, it's a hybrid visual novel, but I will happily feature such games on this channel because I'm confident that many JRPG fans can enjoy visual novels. Opus has one of the most astounding narratives I've ever played through, which is insane considering not only its length but also its budget. This is an indie title at the end of the day, but it's presented better than many AAA games on the market. There's so much care and soul laden within every line of code that makes up this game. Through its excellent writing and structure, we are able to connect to the narrative, the themes, the characters, and it culminates in one of my favourite endings to a game ever. It's not only got excellent build-up, but also has stellar execution on top of that. That aspect is also supported by a wonderful soundtrack. This is why I always highlight good soundtracks in games, because they work hand in hand with the story we are witnessing. Opus is one of the best examples of that mindset. Seriously, if you love your story and characters in JRPGs, go in as blind as possible and experience this gem. It's cheap and it's short, but those hours are packed with value at every corner. At number 2 is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I was worried at first. The opening moments were slow, the story was taking a while to pick up, and the combat felt rigid. Come the start of chapter 4 though, it all started to fall into place. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 feels like a gamble in that Monolith Soft put so much into the game that it ultimately could have become its greatest downfall. There is no doubt that this game is flawed, it has some very odd decisions put into it. Examples would be the inability to revisit tutorials when the game has an insane amount of new mechanics to pick up, or the archaic art direction that spins all over the place. Others may point to the management of the blades and how switching them around to traverse the world can be a pain. But you know what? I don't care about any of that because the positive aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 are just too major to let minor grievances get in the way. This sequel has one of my favourite combat systems in any game. It rewards those who grasp everything on offer, from combos to elemental orbs to bursts. I really dig the meaningful build-up and eventual payoff that comes with this system, and it's ultimately because it's so intricate that it feels disjointed in the early stages. Once everything is there, the system is brilliant, and I loved it all the way to the end. Exploration is stronger in this game as well. I feel that the map design is more compact rather than relying on scale alone. The blades are a great addition, especially with the unique models that grant additional side content to dig deeper into their characters, leading to insane levels of value for the money you're paying. And then there's the story, which in my mind is just as good as the original. I won't say it's better because I think both of the stories shine in their own ways, but to match up with the first game while also standing apart in its own way is a testament to the quality of the writing and the execution of its premise. I have a lot of love for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and just like the first game, it is a must-play for any JRPG lover who owns a Switch. And at number 1, I'm sure some of you already knew what game would take the top spot as soon as you started watching, but it's Kuro no Kiseki. Trails is my favourite series of all time, and any chance to revisit it will instantly push said game to the higher echelons by default. But to maintain that wave of excitement is arguably more difficult, but Trails consistently manages to do that, and Kuro no Kiseki is no exception to the rule. It's the 11th game in the mainline series, and is also a soft reboot introducing new combat, new characters, the land of Calvard, and utilises Falcom's new in-house engine for the whole game. Kuro no Kiseki does everything I expect from a Trails game. It has a slow yet meaningful narrative that builds up to a worthwhile payoff, but Kuro no Kiseki shifts the tone of said narrative to a more dark approach, and it does that pretty well. I also think that this game feels standalone enough that a new player can use Kuro as a starting point. It's not perfect by any means, as there are callbacks to other titles, but I feel that the revelations here will act as a hook to draw new players into those previous games, rather than causing them to feel lost completely, akin to the first Cold Steel game. However, it still maintains that balance of sating the hunger of veterans too, with those references and the new sprinkles on the existing timeline. I think the characters introduced here are very strong, including the new protagonist Van Arkwright, and I personally really enjoy the new take on combat. Trails needed a shake up in my opinion from the previous 10 games, and they maintained the turn-based style but made it faster, which was ultimately the main goal of the shift. You could argue that as a result the combat has a few flaws like being too easy to work with, but I think it's a great foundation to build upon going forward. The only real disappointment I had from Kuro came in the music. There wasn't any song here that took me by the head and shook it around a la Ys or Trails to Azure. It's just a good OST, nothing more than that. But either way, everything else in the game points to Kuro no Kiseki being another fine addition to the Trails series, and it is without doubt the best game I've played this quarter. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more JRPG goodness, please like and subscribe, and consider joining my Patreon if you're interested. Peace.